You're watching BionicDance. Don't run on automatic, instead, please think.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Brett Keane from God TV Radio, and today we're going to talk about justice and the atheist worldview.
Thank you, sir. May I have another? Thank you, sir. May I have another?
And thus justice is done. Long live atheism. Let's do this. Greetings, fellow space travelers. BionicDance here. And yup, it's our old pal Brett Keane again. And he seems to think that justice and atheism cannot coexist.
It seems to me, by definition, justice is nothing more than a useful fiction. That's if you're a non-believer.
And that's bad.
Frankly, if justice is useful, I'll take it, fiction or not. For that matter, as a non-believer, I see your God as a similar fiction, though I might debate its utility. You can say there's no true justice in atheism, but unless you can prove that your God is real, there's no true justice in religion either. As you said, a useful fiction.
To me, I have a higher authority. I have something of an external justice, a God who watches and sees every single thing that happens.
Well, isn't that special?
It sure is convenient that you have this all-seeing protection, or at least detection, that'll dispense justice to each and every wrongdoer. I'm sure it's very comforting, but doesn't it sound just a little bit too good to be true? And isn't there that little religious loophole that says all you have to do is sincerely ask God for forgiveness and he'll absolve you of all wrongdoing? How the hell, get it, is that justice?
But for the atheist who sits around and complains, why does God sit around and do this, and why does God just simply watch? I believe in many cases there are people out there who have come forward, gave their testimony, have spoken out, and shown that they have witnessed that God has interacted many times, that God has taken responsibility for many situations.
People have come forward and said they've seen Bigfoot and UFOs too. However...
It's a very interesting story. It doesn't make any sense at all. Are you aware of that?
Why should we accept any paranormal story without evidence? I mean, isn't it awfully convenient that nobody was carrying a camera, that nobody was taking a selfie in order to catch God's alleged intervention on video for all of us to see? And the few times there was a camera, we didn't see anything we couldn't explain naturally. And the few times we saw footage we couldn't immediately explain, we had no reason to suspect that a god was responsible or even that it was paranormal in nature. We only knew that we'd seen something weird.
Yes! Yes! Jesus H. Goddamn Christ! I have seen the light!
So people can come forward all they like, but they're going to have to do better than telling stories if we're going to believe they're engaging in anything other than confirmation bias.
However, on the other hand, I think that sometimes justice is done when nothing is done at all. Sometimes things happen in our life for a reason.
Everything in our life happens because of something. Not everything happens for a reason.
I think that everything that happens in our life has purpose.
And sometimes that purpose is to royally fuck us over. I'm not saying I agree, mind you. I'm just saying that when there is a knowing and deliberate purpose to our lives, far too often that's it.
But if you're an atheist, there is no such thing as justice. There's no such thing as man's justice either, for everyone will admit that our judicial system is not perfect.
And that's the problem. You're expecting perfection. It's kind of like how religious people so often insist that morality is objective. I'm sure there's a kind of security and comfort in knowing that the rules are static, unchanging, absolute, and that justice for breaking them is fair, universally applied, flawless. But as you described earlier, this is a useful fiction, a security blanket. There's absolutely no evidence to show that any of this is the case. If it turns out that we're truly on our own in a godless universe, are you really saying that there is no justice? That we can't know what hurts us? That we can't devise a set of rules for mutual protection and a specialized force for protecting them? Is imperfect justice no better than its complete absence? I don't think I'm going out on too much of a limb here when I say I'll take that over none at all.
But in the atheist worldview, even when we look at this and we think to ourselves, really, this is the universe that we live in. This is a universe with God. We could do so much better without.
I think you misunderstand what atheists usually mean when we say that. Obviously, I can't speak for all, but "we can do better without God" usually refers to the crap that God has allegedly pulled.
The Lord is vengeful. Oh, spiteful one, show me who to smite, and they shall be smoten.
Plagues, floods, dead firstborn, wives turned into salt pillars for the crime of curiosity, telling a fellow to sacrifice his son for loyalty and then pulling a switcheroo at the last second. This to you is justice? Because as I see it, that's the behavior of a psychopath. If that's the kind of morality that God expects us to live under, we're definitely better without the fucker.
Well, how could we do better? If we're nothing but a lump of chemicals and that we're all going to simply die and become non-existent, then there's no justice to that.
You're a waste of space.
First of all, knock it off with that lump of chemicals argument. It's one of the stupidest, most ignorant, and frankly dishonest arguments I've ever heard. Chemicals or not, we think, we feel, we hurt. And as long as we can do that, the ultimate nature of our existence doesn't matter. Next, religion seems to have grilled into the heads of its followers the idea that justice has to be eternal, almost as if someone cannot pay a debt and be done with it, given another chance, which is weirdly contradicted by the whole asking God for absolution thing. But that's religion for you. But neither of them matches a reasonable description of justice.
Adolf Hitler got away with killing 6 million Jews.
Got away with? He lost a war on 2 fronts and committed suicide.
I'm sure you already knew that. That's what turns me on about you. Your attention to detail.
If that's getting away with it, what does punishment look like in your world?
Jeffrey Dahmer, who was an atheist, got away with cannibalism and rape.
He was sent to prison and bludgeoned to death with an iron bar. This, to you, is getting away with it?
So what? He spent a little bit of time in a cage. How exactly is that justice?
Well, what would you say justice is? If you look it up, justice is nothing more than the adherence to the rules of right conduct, which humans make up. They're not made up without logic or purpose behind them. Usually. But if they're the best we can do, you might just have to live with it. Life isn't perfect, you know.
If we take a look at ourselves and take a look at our surroundings, we can see that when atheists feel that there is no justice or authority, they will act out. They will commit crimes. They will do things that they normally wouldn't do if they had someone watching over them.
What right do you have for singling out atheists? Theists do this just as much despite their beliefs. And what right do you have to pin this on all atheists? I'm sorry, but this is just lashing out and not a genuine argument with a basis in fact.
The internet is a perfect example. How many times have we seen young women making videos and the atheists come over and leave comments such as they would like to rape the person?
The atheists come over? On what basis do you make that assertion? How do you know they're atheists? Do you have a list of names? And how do you know there are no theists on that list?
Even if the world is a terrible place, even if humanity has made the earth a nightmare, even if children are molested every day and people are murdered and killed, at least in the Christian worldview, we can find that there is a God who is going to condemn all these inappropriate, destructive, devastating actions.
Why do I sense Pascal's wager coming up here? Because I can ask what happens if it turns out that God is fake, and I don't think it's too far of a stretch to assume that the answer will come out something like, well, you still haven't misbehaved because you were afraid of sinning in front of God. So why take the chance? Does anyone not think that's a reasonable conversational hypothesis? But I can also point to atrocities done in the name of religion, like the Crusades or the Inquisition. So this Christian worldview being described does not quite conform to reality. And while we're on the subject, what if it turns out that Christianity isn't the right religion after all, and you've been following the wrong holy text all along?
But these lunatics always go, well, because it says in the Bible. Okay, stop, hang on. I'm glad you like a book. But just because you like something in a book doesn't mean you can have the thing you like in the book happen in real life. That's what crazy people want.
Let's suppose, just for the sake of argument, that Mumbo Jumbo, monkey god of the Congo, is the one true God after all, and you've been violating his rules of justice all over the place for your entire life. What you gonna do then?
The atheist likes to argue and state, well, I do good and I don't need a reward. Yes. According to you.
And probably to the person we've helped, you think? And by this standard, you've only done good according to you. Even if a god is real, you still have to agree with him, her, it, or them. Their morality is only correct in your opinion.
But if we actually were around you and we were to ask you the question, would you be willing to give yourself for an innocent child? Would you be willing to sacrifice yourself for a stranger? Would you be willing to do unto others as you went done unto yourself? The atheist, of course, will lie.
Oh, fuck you, Brett. Telling me I would lie?
That's a peddling.
I'm not going to go into details because some of them are very personal and not just to me, but I've saved lives, Brett. Maybe I didn't need to sacrifice myself to do it, but I also didn't need a god to try, to do what I wish someone would do for me if our positions were reversed. I'm sure I've told the story about my now ex-girlfriend. That one, at least, after this many years, isn't that personal. I had to give her mouth-to-mouth when she stopped breathing, and it turned out it wasn't the drugs that she'd taken, it was the tumor in her head. I saved that crazy junkie's life, and my only thought, besides oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck, was that I needed to save someone's life. And for the record, I had no idea about her crack habit. She sprung it on me that night. But you're gonna tell me that I'd lie, Brett? That I wouldn't do the right thing when the chips were down? Fine. Then you're just one more name off of the list of people whose lives I would save. Asshole. And I'm done with him. Until next time, fellow space travelers, this is BionicDance saying don't run on automatic. Instead, please, think. If you don't like what I'm saying, there's a good chance you're the reason I'm saying it.